everyone, and welcome to the big day that we have all been awaiting.
Graduation day marks an important rite of passage in the life of a student, where they leave the preparatory grounds of the institution to join the realms of the professional world. To signify this moment, we begin today's ceremony with the processional walk, a metaphorical crossing from nurturing ground of learning towards what will be a brave new world for our newest group of young architects, presenting the faculty of WCFA and the graduating classes 2020 and 2021. We have our Cheif Guest Dr. Sundar Sarukkai and our Principal, Professor Shruti Shah. Let's hear it for the graduating classes 2020 and 2021. I now invite the choir to perform the Mysuru anthem.
Kayo Shri Gauri Karunalahari Toya Jakshi Shankarishwari Vaimanika Brahmachita Komala Karapade Shrimanvita Bhumaspade Kamita Phalade Shumbadi Madambo Nidhi Kumbhajaniva Devi Jambahita Sambhavita Shambhavi Shubhave Kayo Shri Gauri Karunalahari Toya Jakshi Shankarishwari Shri Jaya Chamundi Shri Jaya Chamendra Namakita Bhumendra Lalamana Mudade Kayo Shri Gauri Karunalahari Toya Jakshi Shankarishwari Toya Jakshi Shankarishwari Toya Jakshi Shankarishwari.
Thank you, Nitya and Sitara. Good evening, everyone. The past couple of years have seen this entire world being tested in manners unprecedented. For us, as an educational institution, perhaps the greatest challenge was in making peace with the fact that we were not all physically together in the same space, yet ensuring that the connect between and across students and faculty was never lost. 2020 was a significant year for WCFA, as that was when our first ever batch, the batch of 2015, completed their course. Keeping in mind the health and well-being of all concerned and the spate of lockdowns and travel restrictions, it looked unlikely that we would ever be able to host a graduation ceremony in the non-virtual world. Among all the seemingly unpredictable turns of events we have had to deal with, however, we have been presented with the serendipitous opportunity to host a graduation ceremony for two of our classes together. Our first ever senior-junior group, who will today walk out of these doors together as professionals, all hierarchies dissolved. It is nothing short of miraculous that we have all been able to pull together and be present here today to celebrate the batches of 2015 and 2016 as they graduate. Hence, it is with great pleasure that I welcome the graduating classes of 2020 and 2021. Today is your day. Please give yourselves a round of applause. I welcome the parents and families of the graduates. Thank you for your many years of support and for joining us in celebrating your children on this very special occasion. Our guest of honor and patron, Her Highness Srimati Pramoda Devi Wadiyar, was unable to join us today owing to the Dasera festivities. I thank her and His Highness Yaduveer Krishnadatta Chamaraja Wadiyar for their good wishes and the congratulatory message to the graduates which we will be listening to soon. Our chief guest for the day is Dr. Sundar Sarukkai, who will be delivering the commencement address. I welcome you, sir. I welcome our principal, Professor Shruti Shah, and all the members of the Design Foster Trust. I welcome Professor S.G. Srinivas, Chairperson, and Professor Vidya Shankar Ramakrishnan, Secretary of the Design Foster Trust. I welcome the members of SJUET, the Sri Jai Chamarajendra Ars Education Trust. I welcome VTU nominee and Principal of RMS School of Architecture, Professor Vasant Bhatt. I welcome all the well-wishers of WCFA who have taken the time to travel and join us in the celebration today. I welcome all faculty members of WCFA, past and present, whose relentless efforts have shaped and continue to shape the pedagogical culture at WCFA. And finally, I welcome all our dear students who have hopefully had the time to take a breather and settle in after the days and nights of work that you have put in to help organize this event. Let's give everyone a round of applause. I now invite our chief guest, Dr. Sundar Sarukkai, Principal Professor Shruti Shah, Chairperson of the Design Foster Trust, Professor S.G. Srinivas, and Secretary of the Design Foster Trust, Professor Vidya Shankar, to light the inaugural lamp. As our guest of honor, Her Highness Srimati Pramoda Devi Wadiyar was unable to join us physically on campus today owing to the Dasera festivities. She wishes to convey her hearty congratulations to the graduates. His Highness Maharaja Yaduveer Krishnadatta Chamaraja Wadiyar also sends in his greetings and best wishes to WCFA and the graduates. Let us now listen to their messages for the students.
I'm delighted to be part of this maiden graduation event of the Wadiyar Centre for Architecture, Mysuru. At the outset, I wish to congratulate the students and WCFA. It's a proud moment for all of us. Hereon, for those graduating today, it's time to pursue your dreams and ambitions in a challenging and competitive world out there. My best wishes to each one of you for a successful and fulfilling future. As we all know, it has been difficult times during the years 2020 and 2021 due to the prevalent COVID-19 pandemic. Let's hope and wish for better times ahead. Congratulations once again to you all and to WCFA on this significant day. Thank you.
A very good morning to everyone. On the occasion of the first graduating ceremony of the Wadiyar Centre for Architecture, I extend my best wishes and heartiest congratulations to all the graduating students. Due to the Navratri rituals having already been started, I cannot attend the graduation ceremony in person, but I am overjoyed to finally see our first batch of graduating students go through this landmark event in their careers and lives, and I'm sure it is the first success of many to come in all of your careers. To the teaching staff as well as regular staff at the Wadiyar Centre for Architecture, I must extend many congratulations as well. It is through their tireless efforts and their constant sort of presence at the Wadiyar Centre for Architecture that this institution has grown to become what it has today. And no doubt, I'm sure the students will attest to this, that the teachers and all of the staff there have helped them along their way towards attaining this goal of being graduates. Lastly, towards the trustees of Design Foster, my very best wishes and congratulations to them. It was their idea that seeded this institution. It is their support and their tireless service as well as advice that has allowed this institution to grow towards having this it has today and embodying that Mysore heritage of building institutions that are of everlasting value. I am sure their efforts will ensure that many more batches of students will go through and become worthy architects in the respective fields going forward. Once again, my heartiest congratulations to the graduating students as well as everyone here who has been a part of the Wadiyar Centre for Architecture journey. I am absolutely overjoyed to be a part of what is another feather in the cap of the WCFA. Once again, heartiest congratulations.
I invite our principal, Professor Shruti Shah, to address the gathering. Good evening. It gives me great pleasure to welcome everyone gathered here today to Wadiyar Centre for Architecture's first ever graduation ceremony. I thank our patrons, Her Highness Srimati Pramoda Devi Wadiyar and His Highness Yaduveer Krishnadatta Chamaraja Wadiyar for their constant support and goodwill towards the institution. Once again, I welcome our Cheif Guest Dr. Sundar Sarukkai. Thank you, Sundar, for having taken time out from your busy schedule and you are joining us here today on this special occasion. And we look forward to hearing your commencement address. I welcome Professor S.G. Srinivas, Professor Wadiyar Centre, and all other members of the Design Foster Trust who have been instrumental in the establishment and the growth of this institution. I welcome the members of the SGUET Trust and all our esteemed guests. We are also honored to have Dr. Vasundhara Filosia, historian and epigrapher, Professor Pierre Sylvain, to grace the occasion. We are also happy to have the presence of Professor Vasant Bhatt, who's come all the way here to attend and be a part of this occasion. I congratulate the graduating classes of 2020 and 2021, their parents and families, today as we celebrate your achievement and welcome you into the growing fraternity of architects in our country. On this momentous occasion, where we have the first two batches of WCFA graduating together, I thought it would be apt to reflect upon our journey as an institution through what has been a challenging couple of years for the world at large due to the COVID pandemic that we went through. The biggest question that we as academicians and architects were faced with was whether teaching architecture is something that we could do by sitting in front or across the screens, absent from this wonderful campus that has been crafted with the intent to facilitate multiple natures of engagement between faculty and students. It has definitely not been easy, and our methods of teaching and learning were often put to test. But now, having arrived upon the other side, where we can once again venture into the physical space where we can sit across and have each other's presence, we have quite a lot of confidence in the fact that our strength as a collective lies in the adaptability and willingness with which faculty and students approached new and previously untested paradigms of imparting and imbibing learning. Our aim has always been to expose our students to the most innovative and best practices in architectural education and practice, something that's remained undiluted even in the online mode of education. Alongside the lectures, studios, expert and master classes were conducted as a part of the regular academic schedules. We also curated new platforms such as the Monsoon Lecture Series in collaboration with Anant National University, and the HTSE Talkies, a series of open discussions between teachers and students based on the narratives of movies identified by the history and theory domain. Student-run clubs such as the Book Club continued meeting online, and our recently constituted digital media team have greatly aided in keeping the spirits high by actively engaging the student body in the organization and communication of campus events. Thesis discussions and reviews were pursued with equivalent rigor of offline interactions, as a result of which we today see 2 batches of students successfully graduating. To facilitate unfettered access to learning, resources, and documentation, we've constituted the WCFA repository, which we are hopeful will grow into a valuable platform for sharing and accessing documented history, heritage, and pedagogical practices of the institution. Our inaugural day celebration for the first year batch 2020, which we recently conducted online, where we honored the excellence of students across all the batches. This event was graced by Council of Architecture President Professor Habib Khan. Now that we are back on campus, the lingering uncertainty of potential lockdowns and concerns regarding health and safety still loom, but if there is anything that the last 2 years have taught us, it is that when we combine our capacities, we form resilient networks that we can endure and seek innovative yet well-grounded solutions towards questions known and unknown. It is in this spirit of collaboration that drives WCFA, whether it is within our own student and faculty groups or the manner in which we engage professionals from architecture or other allied disciplines that open us to diverse conversations and dialogues with students. Graduates of 2020 and 2021, I hope that in this very spirit of resilience, through combining our strengths and experiences that will shape and bolster you through your professional journeys in these uncertain yet very exciting times, WCFA's doors are always open to you anytime you choose to reach out to this piece of home. May you be the change makers that the world of tomorrow deserves and can look towards. Congratulations once again and have a lovely evening. Thank you. I now invite Trustee Member of Design Foster, Professor Anand Krishnamurthy, to address the graduating classes of 2020 and 2021.
Hello all. Thank you for the privilege in allowing me to address the class of 2020 and 2021. I am the wrong choice for this speech, as the most suited person for this gave it a walkover, citing that, I quote, "They've heard me a dozen times over the past few years." Thank you, students, parents, teachers, staff at WCFA for making these 5 years everything that you were. WCFA was your life and our lives, where we had good times, and today I want to give you all a big congratulations. Most importantly, to the faculty, including myself, for this momentous occasion of the graduation of the first and second batch of students. You have played an instrumental role in making of these students. Once these students catch up on their sleep that you are responsible for depriving them of, they will eventually appreciate you. Your dedication, patience, and wisdom often go without formal appreciation, but do know that your influence on them is beyond measure. To the parents, you also deserve to be congratulated, because for all the pride that you feel, and deservedly so, as it was your unconditional support that has made all of this possible. For the class of 2020 and 2021, congratulations. The world we live in is plagued with dangerous stuff. COVID-19, ISIS, global warming, facial acne, surviving all-nighters, dreaded teachers, fearful design studios, countless toxic fumes from a panoply of adhesives while making models. malaria-feared RSPs, petrifying juries and even more frightening jurors at one end. With chilling fun-filled campus days, joyous North India tours, campus fairs, lively concerts, world apart time at your internships on the other end. And despite all the odds, you have worked incredibly hard to be here as graduates. We are expecting great things. Your day is finally here, and make no mistake, you are all the stars of this event. And so let's give us a thunder of claps and a round of applause. In 2014, 11 of us decided to start a school in Mysuru, almost whimsically. In a year's time, we had pulled the rest through. We had a campus, university affiliation, COA clearance, and just the minimal number of permanent staff. For new admitting students, we had nothing to show but our faces. We had no building, just a large hall out there, 2 antique buildings out here, and the fired spirit from the rest of us. I acknowledge the immense faith of the students and the parents had in us that got them to join WCFA. Thank you all for that. In the first year's Freshers' Day, there were 22 performers, 18 staff members, and 1 in the audience. At the end, we had to request the 1 in the audience member to kindly help us take 1 group picture. In 2016, we completed our first new building. When the 2016 batch arrived, we could accommodate our students in the first semblance of a campus. Each new year brought us additional new staff members, additional extension of buildings, and a sustained credible academic fervor and acclaim. Unlike Victor Frankenstein, the number of experiments conducted by us on both the batches in the search of our own academic idiom rather went off well. And we have students from both batches as well accomplished architects and good human beings going out to get the world. I think we live now in the legacy that they have all made together in the past 5 years. To conclude my job in addressing you today, I have just a couple of advices. Life is not fair. Deal with it. Pursue discipline. It's an old-fashioned word, but it's never been more important. Congratulations again, class of 2020 and 21. You'll always be remembered as the pioneering batches. You've shown great camaraderie and pride of belonging to your batches. Talk with dignity and pride about your Wadiyar Centre for Architecture. Neither to the left nor to the right, but on straight on. Thank you.
Thank you, AK sir, for being as wise as always. The WCFA student band will now perform for us. So over to Ornesh Ghosh from semester 5 to introduce the band.
Good evening, everyone. We have John and Nitya from the 9th semester. We have Sitara from the 7th semester. We have Lina, Galina, Maitri, Alok, Melita, and myself from the 5th semester, and Himamshu from the 3rd semester.
कोशिश में वो हर बात से दिल की अब मुश्किल नहीं कुछ भी, नहीं कुछ भी.
Thank you, guys. We now have the introduction of the Chief Guest, Dr. Sundar Sarukkai, by Associate Professor Julie Ann Tarakan. Sarukkai is the founder of Barefoot Philosophers, an initiative to bring philosophy to the public. He is presently a visiting faculty at the Centre for Society and Policy, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He is the author of the following books: Translating the World, Science and Language, Philosophy of Symmetry, Indian Philosophy and Philosophy of Science, What is Science? And 2 books co-authored with Professor Gopal Guru, The Cracked Mirror, an Indian Debate on Experience and Theory and Experience, Caste and Everyday Social. His book titled G.R.D. Tata and the Ethics of Philanthropy was published in 2020. He is the co-chief editor of the Springer Handbook and Logical Thought in India, the series editor for the Science and Technological Studies series, Routledge, and editorial advisory member to Leonardo. Dr. Sarukkai was a professor at the National Institute of Advanced Studies till 2019 and was the founder director of the Manipal Center for Philosophy and Humanities, Manipal University. His forthcoming book, Philosophy for Children, will soon appear in English and other languages. We welcome you, sir, to give the commencement address.
Thank you, Julie. Professor Shruti Shah, Professor Srinivas, Professor Vidyashankar, parents, faculty, visitors, students, and most importantly, the graduating class of 2020 and 2021. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here before you today. It's also intimidating. I'm also deeply honored because you choose to share a very important moment in your life with me. You might ask, what does a person who spent his life trying to make sense of the world through various disciplines, primarily philosophy, have to do on this occasion in front of you? It's daunting because we have had some wonderful speeches before, a lovely piece of music, and you're all eagerly awaiting to get your certificates. And it's almost like before you're waiting to have lunch, you're all ready to have lunch in a wedding, somebody comes and tells you, why don't you listen to me for half an hour? So in a sense, I must apologize to you and keep you waiting for your degree for a few more minutes. Because, I'm supposed to inspire you before you go out into the world tomorrow. And as teachers, I guess our main primary job is to inspire, much more than anything else. And I'm sure your wonderful faculty have taught you that well. But what can I, a person who is not in the field of architecture, say to you that is going to matter to you, that's going to make you look at the world in maybe through a different lens? Let me suggest to you that, there's a very important moment of your career time now, right? Because till today you are students, and you get up tomorrow, you are not a student, you are a graduate. But what does that mean? To me, one of the most important transitions from a student to a professional is the sense of moving from a sense of freedom as a student to responsibility as an individual. From tomorrow, you are responsible, and worse, you are accountable. And from tomorrow, there are no excuses. And the world you are going to meet is going to be made up of people like me, who are not architects, who are going to encounter you and wonder what you are doing, what are you doing entering into our world, what are you going to give to us? So I want to speak to you about reflecting on this moment through one particular idea, which to me is so important, which is so essentially captured in the spirit of architecture. When I have spoken to other architectural groups, I realize that the way they approach architecture is very different from those of us who are interested in architecture as a discipline from outside understand it. But after speaking to your trustees and faculty, I must say I'm really inspired by the kind of program you have had, by the kind of people who have been teaching you. And I mean it very sincerely, I'm not trying to be polite. I'll give you one instance. Before I came here, I know quite a few number of architects in Bangalore, and I was telling a couple of them that I'm coming to this place. And I hadn't heard of it because I'm not within the field. And very interestingly, these architects told me, oh, I've heard very good things about that place, and that's even before you have graduated. Which means there's an extra responsibility on you when a world outside is already having certain perceptions about you. And the perceptions the philosophy community has and the social science community has, which are community outside you in some sense, is something which will influence very deeply how we understand architecture and how it influences your practice. From tomorrow it is a difficult time for you because we all know this, and I can share this with you without making you feel stressed on graduating. Jobs are difficult. I know very good imaginative, creative architects who feel that they have become interior designers, or worse, building apartments of certain kinds. But still, there is something essential to the idea of architecture that takes what you do beyond your particular profession. All of you may not become architects, it doesn't matter. Architecture is a kind of a training of not just thinking, but of being in the world in a particular manner. And I want to reflect on just that by asking a very simple question, by reflecting on just this act of building. I was at the same time as of now, last week, I was in a small place called Cheif, which is near Leh in Ladakh, in a monastery where I go there every year to teach a course on philosophy for a lot of students who come, some of whom come from architecture and so on. The place where the students were living, if any of you have been to Leh and Cheif, which is very close by, it's 12,000 feet. We are told that oxygen is less. The place is built with very Spartan. There's a nunnery where the Buddhist nuns live. And in the cold, it's extremely difficult to live in those rooms. And here are these 40, 50 students who come from all around India, many of them from Ladakh, who stay in those rooms, who listen to lectures like ours, who stay through the winter with very minimal kinds of support within within that area they live in. So to me, my question was always, what makes that place so attractive that students are willing to put up, young people like many of you are willing to stay in such a place? And the answer to me was very simple. I step out of the nunnery, or along with the nunnery, I come to the the passageway, and I look behind. There are these huge mountains, brown mud mountains flowing into the nunnery. Every day, while the students have the difficulties of living in that place, in that constructed building, what seemed to me to be very clear was that the building which constituted that nunnery was not just those few, that particular compound in which they were, but the very idea of a building transcended the physical structure which is present in it. The land around that nunnery was part of the building of nunnery. It reminded me of a question which has often intrigued philosophers, and that's why their interest with the idea of architecture. And that is the question of, what is a building? What is a building? Just take some bricks, put some cement, put some pillars up, and you have a building? The word building is not so easily captured. And what I want to suggest to you now, in the last phase of your studentship, is that a reflection on the idea of building, something which all of us, as I said, philosophers and social scientists tend to do enormously, actually shows you the power of being trained in the disciplines of architecture, whether you end up being a particular kind of an architect or not. The best way to capture this idea is that, to use a very poetic phrase, a question which many of you might even often ask, is there life in a building? You enter a house, you enter a space and ask, is there life in that place? And I'm sure as young people, impatient young people, you're wondering, what is this, mysterious poetic thing of saying there is life in a building? After all, building is lifeless. But yet, historically, conceptually, it is architects who have often come down to this question of imagining the idea of life in a building, something which those of us who are not architects cannot easily understand. It's you who actually know what it means to say that a building has life. And it's actually very interesting. If you look at the history of the association of the idea of architecture, you can see why the question of life in buildings is so important. If you look at all mythologies, you can start with the Hindu mythology, the Greek, the Egyptian, the Norse mythologies. All these mythologies have a god for architecture. Of course, you all know Vishwakarma. There is an Egyptian god for architecture, a Greek and the Norse. Why do you need a god? Why do you need architect as a god? What is the function of a god who is an architect? Because in all these mythologies, the architect god creates the universe as much as he or she creates buildings. And if you really ask, why a god? Why couldn't it be somebody else who could just build these things? The reason is very simple. In all these mythologies, there is a particular function of God, and that function of God is to give life. It is also to take life, but it is to give life that makes them gods. And a god for architecture is as much a statement that what makes buildings special, what makes buildings not mere constructions of wood and stone, is your capacity to give life to these objects. And this, as I said, is something which is spread across many of these narratives about what it means to build. If you really look at this question of life in an inanimate thing like a building, one of the most important parallel discussions happen in art. And in art, a very important question is, what makes any artwork, but let's say sculpture, what makes a great sculpture? What makes one sculpture stand out in comparison to another sculpture? Artists often invoke the idea that great art captures a sense of life in stone. This idea that life in stone, poetry in stone, movement in stone, and movement in art and life in art has often been the way many great artists try to understand the very idea of art. Now, to me, thinking about many of these kinds of questions about ideas of giving life, an artist is a sculptor, a great sculptor is one who can give life to a piece of stone. And then I compare it to this question of architecture. And then I want to understand what is it that an architect is actually doing vis-a-vis a building, vis-a-vis a space. To answer that, you just have to remember about this, just reflect a little bit on the word building. The word building is actually very important and interesting because building never refers to just the kind of structures we have around us. Most importantly, when we talk of build, we use it to say you build a character. You build not just these kinds of places, but you build a home. You build a society. You build a culture. And in that act of building, there is something very special about what makes architecture as an idea, as a thought process, as a practical act, what makes it unique in that sense. Building is not constructing. Constructing is very different. Architects as builders of these buildings are not just mere constructors. And the reason how this idea of giving life to building makes architecture a very special event can be captured by just a few examples. I am going to give you these examples just to indicate something which I am sure you know, all of you know very well, but just to alert you to the importance of what you are doing and the unique way by which you do this. Look at one of the most classic examples, often an inspiration to a lot of architecture. The building by animals and insects and all kinds of creatures which actually build nests, they build dams, they build all kinds of, like the termite hills, they build some of the most complex structures we ever have. What is different between an animal or an insect or a creature's building its inhabit in a particular or its own place it inhabits, and the difference between what you as architects are going to build? There is something which is interesting. I am going to say this in a way which I am sure you will think about it and not get too upset when you first hear about it, which is that animals building has life in it. All the constructions they do are part of the environment. They are what we would call as part of the larger social world in which animals belong to. And this is something very important to think about. When animals build, the meaning of building always is more than the individual who is building. It's not meant for individuals. You have a beehive, you have an ant hill in which social communities live within one quote unquote building. This idea that somehow the very nature of building has to be more than a simple functional use of a few people staying in this room or the other is an extremely very well represented in the case of animals. And that gives you a model for trying to think through what a building should be. There is another way in which all the buildings that you do can be understood through its social impact. And I want to, I have often found that within the various syllabus of architecture, as I was telling Professor Shah and Professor Srinivas, that there's always a tension between trying to understand the amount of sociology and social science or other disciplines which are needed to make sense of what architecture is. Just to give you a few insights into why for some of us architecture matters so much even when we are not architects, and why therefore your practice when you leave tomorrow and go out and work somewhere impacts the way we live our day-to-day lives. One of the most important things, and that's the reason why architecture has got the kind of status that it has, is that every construction in a society always carries meaning which is more than just that construction. We build houses, for example, to reflect status. We build houses to reflect your caste, your religion, your status, your class, your values which you may hold. And every building that you see within a society is a reflection of that. And therefore, no building can only be aesthetically understood. Aesthetics is a social phenomena. There is nothing intrinsic about the aesthetics in architecture. When you create an aesthetics, which is to communicate a message to me about certain social values, then every building that you do is declaring, influencing the world around you, not just in the small building that you build, but very deeply influencing the world in which we live in, influences cultural values that we inhabit, which we take from looking and inhabiting your buildings. There is a very good examples of this throughout the social structures in buildings. Cities reflect social values. If many of you would have known, there are many houses which will be painted blue, and whenever you have a blue painted house in various localities given various contexts, you know that they stand as an expression of Dalit solidarity. You will have people where the Dalits live which will be painted blue. You can have places where Muslims live in which the green will play a dominant role. You might say, after all, they are just buildings where people are living, let's say in 1 or 2 bedroom houses, but still the fact that you use the building to reflect on certain social statements is an extremely important point for you to remember. It is, and there is nothing innocent about any building that you do. Every apartment block that you do carries similar kinds of connotations. And it influences the way society gets ordered and segregated. So there are many examples of this. What you do with a particular building is to be able to create something out of, for us as people who are not architects, who don't have the vision, the perception that you have in seeing things in space which we cannot see. You can see pictures of space. You can, as I often like to describe architecture, it's a sculpture of space in ways in which you can access, which I can't. In the same way, a lot of questions of architecture also deals with its capacity to not just bring this empty space alive, but also brings the past lost time alive. It is buildings which can recreate the past, not as museums or mausoleums, but in the spirit of giving life to that particular emptiness or the space around which you think of a building. There are other very important concepts. I am not going to go look at it very briefly, just as one line. You have questions of flow and energy, which gives life to space, which gives life to building. And this is, I'm sure, something which all of you have looked at very well. When I looked at many of unfortunately I could only look at mostly the titles of the projects. And when I looked at them, I was quite struck by the fact that actually you are already engaging with many of these fundamental ideas of a building always going beyond itself. Let me finally end with, I still have a few more minutes. Let me give you a final try and come up, put some of these points together and point out the other kinds of things which buildings do and which you as architects are participative when you build buildings. Buildings are often used to control people. There is a huge sense of questions of power and control inherent in the way you manage the idea of what a building is. And this idea gets reflected not just in buildings, but goes beyond that into the way society manages and orders people through its architectural planning of very different kinds. For example, we know that in IT companies today, very often when they first came up in Bangalore, in Electronic City, so many of these IT companies, they would say that they have a very different kind of a culture, which is, everybody is in a cubicle. You could be the boss, you are the worker, you're all in a cubicle. And when you talk to some of these managers, they tell you, as I'm sure you have all heard, that somehow putting people all in a cubicle gives you a democratic process of a democratic culture within the IT companies, where everybody is in the same kind of a cubicle rather than somebody having a big room and a small room and so on. The space within the building, in the way in which you imagine it, is used for producing a very interesting social concept called democracy. Through these acts, you are producing an act of democracy between, or so some notions of equality between people working in that particular environment. Now this is reflected in so many places. If you go to science institutions, which I'm sure many of you have seen, one of the characteristics of let's say well-funded science institutions is that you will always have a space where, as part of planning of an institution, you'll have a space where there will be a tea house, a hut for having tea, and this is particularly true in science institutes. There will be a blackboard and some chalk piece there. And the idea is that the best science work is done when people are going on a walk and they just sit and chat, and then they start discussing some points and they scribble on the board and they solve some great problems. That image is so much integral to the idea of producing that space through design in, as I said, in major scientific institutions. And what you are actually doing by that, what you are doing by producing a flow of an idea within this notion of space is actually to produce a culture. What you are building in a science institute like in the IT institute, is not just building buildings. You're building habits, you're building cultures, you're building social norms. We have seen this from very ancient social practices. You know, when you build, even today, if you go to your village today, the earlier so-called the master plan of a village was that you had the Dalit communities, the Dalit Vadas, outside the village. And there are very clear rules on where the Dalit Vadas come vis-a-vis the village. For example, in a village where wind blows, let's say from that direction to here, the Dalit Vadas will never be above the place where the other castes are. They will always be at the place in which the wind is blowing away. Just like water. You would, where if there is water is flowing from one point to the other, then that is ordered. The organization of that society is ordered based on purity principles which are reflected in your design principles. To think that design is independent of these kinds of social values and norms and exclusionary practices which include caste and gender and class would be something which would be difficult for you as practicing professional architect students, if you do not encounter this. It is something which becomes a part of the way in which many of us who see buildings and who react to buildings often ask. And part of that is to recognize that, and this is the last most important point for me, is that what very often doesn't get discussed much, but something which many programs in architecture around the world are starting to take into account, is the question of ethics. The ideas of ethics within architectural practice. And by ethics, I don't mean ethics of saying, are you doing the right thing, are you copying and not copying and so on. The idea of ethics in architectural practice is something which goes back to the foundation of the idea of architecture itself. It's a question of how your actions impact the society. And what does it mean to talk about a training in ethics for architecture students? You know, we are in the same situation till a few years ago when medical students never did a course on ethics, which is now mandatory because everybody does an ethics course as part of AICT or MCI. But what I'm trying to say is, if you see architecture as a social process, never as an individual creative process alone, in which it has impact to the way in which society, social values are produced, social values are generated, transmitted, changed and so on, then your role as an architect when you go out into the world tomorrow is actually very different from your possible imaginations of what the skills of architecture really are. And the reason is this, that architecture, to me, in a simple line, if I have to condense what I'm trying to say, I would say architects, you're not just creating houses, you're not just building houses, you actually build society every time you think you're doing something through your ideas of design. Which means, therefore, and this is the last point I'm going to make, that this raises the question of what your social role is after you finish and go out into the world. As I said, maybe some of you will be architects, I'm sure you'll be very successful architects, maybe all of you will be very successful architects, but there may be many I know of many architects who are like lawyers. You know, there are so many lawyers now who come out of some of our best institutions and who don't pursue law, they don't become lawyers, they enter into NGOs, they do very important work at different sectors. Architects also, in this sense, with the training of architecture, you bring very different kinds of skills which are actually very relevant to for a wide variety of practices within society. And one of the, if there is a complaint which those of us from outside architecture often have, or rather it's not a complaint, it's an expectation from architects and people who are in this profession, is that, you know, the people who should be public intellectuals in our society, who should be voicing their ideas about how our world should be built, are often caught up in their own practices that we don't hear enough of their voices. And part of the great challenge of architects therefore today is that in a changing world with climate change, with the kinds of pollution with air, water, etc., changing social order, impacts of digital technologies, sustainability, etc., the very idea of space around you is changing, and the very idea of what it means to give life to a building is changing. And that to me is the great challenge that faces all of you. And when I see the kind of students that you are and the kind of training that you had, all I can say is that I believe that that future is far more hopeful than I had before I came here and met all of you. So thank you so much for this opportunity, with my best wishes on behalf of all of us here for a wonderful career of thinking about what you're going to do in terms of your action every day of your life starting from tomorrow. Thank you.
I'm sure that our young graduates have received plenty of food for thought to dwell on regarding their social role as practitioners. I now invite Professor S.G. Srinivas to gift Dr. Sarukkai a token of our appreciation. It's now time to hear from our valedictorians for this year. Ishwar Sandesh CM from the class of 2020 and Rahul Pustagi from the class of 2021. The choice for electing the valedictorians was unanimously agreed upon by the faculty who have witnessed their journeys over their 5 years on campus as students. Sandesh and Rahul, WCFA recognizes and appreciates the balance and consistency that has characterized your engagement with academic and extracurricular activities during your time here as students. It has been a joy to be your co-passengers on this journey. Congratulations on your achievement. I now invite our Student Council President Gaurav Mahesh to introduce the valedictorian from the class of 2020, Ishwar Sandesh.
A very good evening to everyone present here today. The 2015 batch being the first ever batch that entered the college, it's been one of those bunch who we all looked up to, be it academics or otherwise. I'm honored and humbled here to be today present the valedictorian from 2015 batch, the happy-go-lucky guy from Dakshin Kannada. Let's hear it out for Ishwara Sandesh, aka Sandy. Any formal event on campus is incomplete without Sandy, singing the Mysuru anthem for us. And any ethnic day on campus is incomplete without seeing Sandy's hilarious and quirky acting parts. Explorative and innovative in his nature, he has been one of the better and consistent academic performers in his batch. Sandy is one of those guys who is like your second teacher, a quick grasper who teaches everyone else what's taught in class because they dozed off. Sandy is one of those guys who is your tech gurus and maybe one of the first ever in WCFA, if I may. His explorative nature with his academic knowledge led to his thesis, an exploration of association of people and space in an urban context, a case for food systems. It bagged him the best thesis award in his batch. Sandy went on to intern at Anagram Architects Delhi, which is led by architect Madhav Raman and architect Vaibhav Bhumri. He along with his two batchmates, Prabhanjan and Vishal, have started their own practice called We the Architects. This has been little more than a year now. Having said all this, I would like to ask all of you to give a huge round of applause for the former member of our courtyard editorial team and the pioneer of Club Expedit, Ishwara Sandesh. Good evening, WCFA. I'm honored to be the valedictorian of batch 2015. It is my pleasure to represent all my fellow mates in this special occasion. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to each one and every one of you who organized this special event for all of us. Special thanks on behalf of our batch to the trustees of Design Foster, HAUT, and our beloved faculty and staff members, parents and juniors. Huge thanks to all of you for making me who I am today, to my best self. It is all because of you people that we, the batch 2015, are here today with all those learnings which unveil day by day, year by year in the field of architecture. Congratulations to us, batch 2015. We did it. And there we were, thinking that people would call us Corona batch. But our junior batch also had to spend their last semester online. Hearty congratulations to my beloved juniors too for sharing the convocation with us. A big round of applause for all of us. After missing our lovely campus and people for 6 straight months during our internship period, we all dreamt of coming back and spending the thesis semester together in our second home. That did not happen due to the stupid virus that caused blank time spots and horrifying experiences and chaos in the world. But we are lucky to be the first batch of WCFA. From laying bricks for a steppy courtyard to foundation day to 7th semester and to the graduation day. We have witnessed the college grow along with us. Lucky that we have been introduced to so many remarkable people from the field and outside by master classes, workshops, juries and events. Together we did it. Those sleepless nights have been paid off. Together we learned what architecture is. I am confident that now we can at least answer that age-old "what is architecture" question that was being asked for us during our orientation day. Together we crafted those thousands of tiny memories of each day of 5 years which made this journey unforgettable. Be it asking every 20 minutes, "Estaitu?" How much done? For each and every assignment in each class. The unplanned unity when it came to submissions, deadlines. The mass bunk, not mentioning. The random unplanned trips after school, jackfruit cutting sessions in the studio, birthday celebrations of faculty and students, walking down to canteen or to the washroom in between theory classes, and mandatory NTS breaks. Night outs and bunty uncle. Last minute green dot runs. We planned the queue for the printout at green dot so much that no one knows who goes next. Of course, after 2-3 people who took prints the day before. We passed 5 years too. There we were, sharpening our pencils on the first day of this old studio, running around the campus for pattern inspirations for the graphics class, organizing our own freshers event, singing with our faculty, transforming the library to classroom, classroom to not sleep room, pizza parties in the courtyard, basically in our own world. Then came juniors along with the new academic block, at which point we weren't ready to share the campus with actually. We became comfortable with all other batches later with so many events, festivals, clubs, official and non-official vertical studios and model making sessions, parties, trips, etc. And yeah, our own newsletter which is so much fun. And so many firsts with us. We were first. We had no seniors. But didn't we? Luckily, we had 2 batches of seniors, lovely junior faculty and senior faculty. We have been listening to hear so many constructive arguments about our assignments, thesis topics, deadlines and so many other things. You people, it's because of you, we are first in so many things until now and in the bright future also that is ahead of us. It was a wonderful journey ahead with site visits, workshops, RSPs that were full of fun treats and handis, vertical studios, Hum To Ud Gaye study trips, sports, musical nights, events in and out of campus, all these with unforgettable non-teaching staff too. I believe they are also an integral part of our first batch and second batch. Yes, we got to steal milk from the faculty fridge and the biscuits and chocolates. After coming to WCFA, I am certain that we all have realized that each one of us is unique and WCFA provides us with a conducive atmosphere for our best selves. WCFA is not just a word, not just college, not just people, it's a feeling. All upcoming batches listen up, Jujus, J-Cubes and beloved new juniors, architecture is fun. We are eager to see your achievements in upcoming years too. Let me just tell you about architecture a little bit. For me, it is the endless process of understanding the life of humans, their culture and practices, emotions and frustrations, perspectives and judgments, values and virtues, and then defining a shelter for a place or activity. This understanding is never ending, it is unique from place to place, person to person. So also we have a responsibility in society as the ideas have to come true and stay for some time, which influence the place and people around us. So we never stop unlearning and learning new things. The importance of dedication and not stopping in between in any activity is depicted beautifully in this Subhashitam. Gachan pipiliko yati yojananam shatanyapi agachan vainateyaha padamekam nagachati. It says that constantly moving ants can reach hundreds of miles even if they are slow. But a super fast eagle cannot even step ahead if it doesn't start. Trust me guys, let's always try to be our best selves. Let's not forget our hobbies, let's not damage our health, and let's not build architecture bubbles. Case studies are for references, not for copying. And last but not the least, make the best use of our seniors and your seniors, and don't forget to enjoy together. And yeah, don't ever forget that north sign and scale. And as we miss Varun and Sahana from our batch, I would like to sing one line. लब पे आती है दुआ बन के तमन्ना मेरी, जिंदगी की शमन्ना, जिंदगी शम्मा की सूरत हो खुदाया मेरी. It's for you guys. Thank you. Signing off, your Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. I now invite Professor Vidyashankar Rao to give a token of our appreciation to Sandesh. I now hand it over to Sitara Rao from batch 2018 to introduce the valedictorian for the class of 2021, Rahul Kustagi.
Good evening, everyone. In introducing Rahul Kustagi to you, I'd like to begin by sharing a small anecdote. One time during a design discussion with him, I was stuck and wasn't sure how to proceed. Kustagi here said to me, "Hey, why don't you flip your model and see how that works?" It worked so well. I remember this every now and then. I'm trying to make a section or a spatial quality more interesting. Thanks for that, Kustagi. Rahul Kustagi is what one would call to be an all-rounder, a multitasker. He has been the vice president in our student council for the 2018 term, the layout editor for Courtyard, our very own campus newsletter for the 2019 term, a design head for Zonasa 2018, headed our photography club, and well, you know the list goes on. Along with managing and excelling in his own academic endeavors, Kustagi has taken part in various design competitions. The following, which are just a few of the many. Sculpting the Pioneers of Architecture 2019, an Archidays competition where his and Vismaya's entry was listed in one of the top 25. Reviving Lost Heritage 2019, a drawing board competition where a team of Saurav, Vismaya and Rahul's entry was listed in one of the finalists. He also participated in the Charles Correa Foundation's Best Undergraduate Thesis in 2021 and got shortlisted. Kustagi interned in and has been working as a junior architect at DCOOP Mumbai since July 2020. He's truly been one of the most approachable people around, always ready to help and fun to work with. We miss you over at Griffin, Kustu. Well, there's much more to say, but tum tod gaye. Guys, please join me in welcoming the valedictorian of batch 2016 onto the stage, Rahul Kustagi.
Hello all. This is an exciting day. Feels great to be back on campus. Guess what time it is? It's speech time. I want to give a big congratulations to everybody, including myself, for being out here. The world is plagued with the danger of coronavirus. Despite all the odds, we have all managed to graduate. Let's give a round of applause to ourselves. I'd like to begin by thanking my parents, my teachers, and of course my batch of 2016 for making me the person that I am today and giving me the chance to conclude these precious years. When I was honored with this title of valedictorian for the batch of 2016, I was flustered, and I'm honored and I'm grateful to the ones who thought I was worthy of this. Last time I was on stage, I'd forgotten my lines. It was a play that we enacted as a part of our history assignment. And now I'm here. I've written down mostly everything. Let's hope for the best. Disclaimer, this speech is based on true incidents and resemblance to any character is intended. And no animals except social were harmed during the making of this. After billions of assignment, submissions, juries and sleepless nights, I remember my first day as if it were yesterday. That was the first yes of many yeses to come. I think it was the first studio class in Julie ma'am, then and always our class coordinator, asked the class if anyone knew where the library was. And I knew, and I raised my hand. I was asked to get some study material, I suppose. By the time I was back, I was declared the class representative. I was shocked, but ma'am, thank you. This was one of the first steps. It was one of the first steps towards fighting my insecurities. One of the many times we as a batch failed to submit our graphic sheets. We said yes to finishing it by the end of the day. I'm not sure how many of us finished the sheet, but the wedge puffs bought as an incentive left without a trace. Thank you, Kiran sir and Rishi sir for all the comprehensive lectures and the wedge puffs respectively. As architecture students, we are expected to go on a lot of study trips. On every trip that we have been to, an RSP or a fun trip, we as a batch have learnt and grown closer to each other. We have made our best memories traveling, like the one to Ooty, which was a compulsory trip for half the class, and the other half still volunteered. Many still remember it as a study trip, and some don't even remember it. We did study the Todas, but it was a trip that we legal citizens of WCFA truly enjoyed. Don't you remember Manjunath sir? Sorry. We once said yes to making a bookshelf, solely made by one carpenter, while 40 of us just watched. Just to jump in at the first opportunity to polish it. Don't know why. All of us just made one shelf. But Shelfati, you'll always be stored in our hearts as you have stored our rubbish. Hope she's still there. We also said yes to decorating the college or the nights before events. And these times revealed different personalities of different people at different hours of the night. We all would plan to pull an all-nighter, but the 5 AM Suprabhatam was the cue for us to go to sleep again. Architecture does mess you up. Another time, we were offered an optional elective, built environment and culture. And few of us did say yes to that. The classes held by KP ma'am were the most enriching ones. Thank you KP ma'am for saying no to the usual. Thank you Kavana ma'am for making the robe look dapper on us. But on a serious note, thank you for making the MP trip awesome. And for all the banter that we have had. Thank you Shreyas sir for all your sarcasm. What a necessary life skill you have taught us. And sorry batch 2015, I'd like to mention that we get labelled as the best batch because we say yes to everything. Thanks to the Rapid Travels for the not so rapid road trip from Delhi to Varanasi, which took us forever. That we should have said no to, but yeah. This one is for the juniors. Look where saying yes to the speech got me. I get to be preachy and you have no option but to listen. All of us are very lucky, should be grateful that we are here in this beautiful city of Mysuru, studying a course which is so unusual and very relevant at the same time. Architecture is a very different course, and the bonds and friendships you would create here will remain with you hopefully forever. Unity as a batch is important. By unity I mean if one of us wants to go to NTS, everyone just says yes and walks out. We all come from different backgrounds, and we as a batch have learnt acceptance and acceptance of who each one of us is. I'd like to take this opportunity to paraphrase architect J.K. Saurav. One learns the most by interacting with their seniors and also their juniors. Sorry, Chiku. This one's for the editorial team. 23 issues is no joke. And congratulations, we have made it this far. Thank you seniors and KP for saying yes to the courtyard. As an alumni, I can only hope to see many more issues to come. I also hope the editorial team now can find their yes. Last but not least, thank you, Her Highness, and all the trustees for saying yes to this institution and supporting us throughout and instilling energy and excitement to everything that we do. It's been a fulfilling experience studying here at WCFA in this beautiful campus under such remarkable faculty and unique friends, along with my unique friends. I'd like to conclude by saying learning happens when one just submits themselves to the process. While healthy skepticism should be encouraged, saying yes in some ways would also mean that you take a stand and you stand by it. So just say yes. Most memories are created when we least expected them. Batch 2015 and Batch 2016, yes, we belong to WCF. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul. I'm glad you said yes to the speech. I call upon Associate Professor Kiran Kumar to gift a token of our appreciation to Rahul. And now for the headlining event, the conferring of degree certificates upon the graduates. To try and put into words the feelings that we as an institution in this moment are feeling, I'm going to borrow a few wonderful words from the Greek author Nikos Kazantzakis. True teachers are those who use themselves as bridges over which they invite their students to cross. Then, having facilitated their crossing, joyfully collapse, encouraging them to create their own. We hope that we have been the bridges towards knowledge that you deserve. Thank you for an amazing 5 years of growing and learning together. Now, on this special day that marks you all joining the architectural fraternity as professionals, we wish you every success in your future pursuits and endeavors. I invite Dr. Sundar Sarukkai to honor the graduates of class 2020 and 2021 by bestowing upon them their course completion certificates. As I call out your names, please come forward. We start with the class of 2020. A huge round of applause, please. Alipta Govindu. Anamika Matthew. Anchal Jain. Atiq Rahman. Fiza Irshad, Ishwar Sandesh, K. Vishal, Namita Narendra Nayak, Prabhanjan M. Skanda, Priyamvada Kasturi, Ronak Dadla, Sahana S, Sameed Ahmed, Sanjit Raju, Sharwani M. Jain, Sindhu Bhatt, Saujanya Shivram. Saujanya is also going to be collecting the certificate on behalf of Sahana Doravri, who's not present with us today. Tanusha M. Murthy, Varsha V, Niranjan P. And finally, we have Varun Pius, whose certificate will be collected by Nelson Pius. We start with the class of 2021. We have Abhinaya Varshini, Aditi Srinivas, Anu Mejo, Aritra Gwyn, Francis Kurian, J.K. Saurav, Karthik Krishna, Kiran Sharma, Miriam Dia, Nisha Shankar, Pooja GJ, Rahul Siddhi, Rahul Kustagi, Rini Paul, Sanya Rai, Sharath Reddy, Soundarya R, Shri Kishan DS, Tanvi Santosh Chali, Vaishnavi Kasi Bhatla, Varun Shetty, Varun Bapu, Vismaya N, Prapul R, Varsha R. Thank you, Dr. Sarukkai, and congratulations, graduates. We're coming to the close of the event, so I now invite Associate Professor R. Kiran Kumar to deliver the vote of thanks.
On behalf of WCFA, we would like to thank all the graduating students and parents. I'm going to just summarize all the thanks and just put it together. The guest of honor, Her Highness Srimati Pramoda Devi Wadiyar and His Highness Sri Yaduveer Krishnadatta Chamaraja Wadiyar for their goodwill and wishes. Cheif Guest Dr. Sundar Sarukkai for having traveled to be with us and a wonderful and inspiring speech. Principal Shruti Shah for a guidance and vision towards the planning of the event. Design Foster Trust thank you for your pioneering steps and constant encouragement. SJUET Trust members for their constant support and wishes. COA President Habib Khan for his message wishing the students. Professor Vasan Bhatt for representing VTU and gracing the occasion. All guests and well-wishers of WCFA who accepted our invite and sent their wishes to the students. All faculty members who have taught both the batches and also find to me part of the event. In bracket I've said say something funny, but I can't be the valedictorians today, so yeah. I'm not filling the gap. All the current faculty, students and staff, and a special thanks to Kavana for the overall coordination of the event and keeping the enthusiasm throughout multiple changes. KP is Krishna Priya for structuring and conducting the event. So for every faculty name I'm mentioning here, there's a core student team who have supported, which is a long list to mention here, and we would need a separate vote of thanks, and thanks for all the running around. Asijit and Nayantara for lighting and decoration. Digital media team led by Shashank for the exhibition and the invites. Julie for all the personal invitations. BL Manjunath sir, the construction team, faculty Sneha and Manju. I've been writing so many times for the enigmatic pavilion is what I wrote first, and it's if I take the liberty, I think it stands as a symbol of lightness, giving a possible clue for the students, graduating students, to stay light yet firm. Sir, I hope I've used the right words. Yeah. Shreyas for organizing the certificates. Akash for coordinating the music event which will follow after this. Dhruv Vishwanath and his team for the music performance and coming down Delhi for the event which will happen after this. And we thank the student band led by Arnesh for the lovely performance. Manjunath and Rajesh for the photo booth. Rashmi for organizing food. Chetan for managing accounts. Soni, Satish, Nasimaya, Tyagraj, Chitapa, Vinod for the administrative and tech support. Thank you all the housekeeping staff for sprucing up the college. And you know we have natural materials, things which decay, but you know how much time it takes to spruce up the college for events like this? Yeah. And the last, and last, Gaurav and Student Council for being boots on the ground and making this event happen. Thank you all. Yeah. Thank you.
Finally, to end things on a high note, I'm going to sign off and hand it over to the band. Thank you everyone and have a lovely evening.